Namaskar, I'm Anuradha Singh and you're watching my video channel Weaving Tales. And this is episode 15 of my series Song of Life, a poetic retelling of Mahabharata. As you all know, in this series I recite few stanzas from my long poetry Song of Life, a poetic retelling of Mahabharata, and then narrate stories related to those stanzas from the Mahabharata. And in my last episode, I had spoken about how Krishna's diplomacy had failed, and then it was imminent that the war will be fought. And most of the kings, not most, actually all kings of Bharatvarsh had decided to part ways. Few of them had made alliance with Pandavas, and few of them had made alliance with Kauravas. But only Krishna and Balram, they did not take part in the war. Balram went on a pilgrimage altogether, but Krishna decided that he will not pick up any weapon, but he became charioteer of Arjuna. And then there were tents and tents and tents all over Kurukshetra where the war was to be fought. And both the generals from the Kaurava and Pandava army met and they decided upon rules. Bhishma Pitamaha made rules how the war will be fought, because it was just not any other war, but it was a Dharma Yudh. So let us read. First I will recite few more stanzas and then I will tell you what happened next. So this is my book, as I have told you before also. This is my new book, Musings of a Wandering Mind, which has been released newly and it is available on Amazon and Flipkart. It has got 40 poems which are usual length, and the 41st poem is Song of Life, and from it I am going to read now. As the morning sun stood regal on the horizon, a great sea of soldiers encompassed the battle arena. It was a spectacle which could not be witnessed again and again. Banners embellished were hoisted on every chariot. They were blazing with pride, as was the warrior himself. The horses, camels, elephants were armored and gleaming. They couldn't stand still, such was the energy of the battlefield. Some were on horses. On the necks of huge tuskers sat others, observing the never-ending lines of the disciplined warriors. Bhishma was all white, resplendent and wise. A golden altar decked with a water pot, and a bow embellished the banner of the great Guru Dronacharya. His banner depicted a silver palm with stars around. A jeweled elephant stood pompously on Duryodhana's ravishing banner. The Pandavas were no lesser. Yudhishthir had a golden moon with shining stars all around. Maruti, a stupendous monkey, was the image of the banner of Arjuna. Not just flags, but also were the conch shells magnificent carved. The Pandavas were no lesser. Yudhishthir had a golden moon with shining stars all around. Maruti, a stupendous monkey, was the image of the banner of Arjuna. And thus were many others with swans, deers, vultures and boars. Not just the flags, but also the conches magnificent carved. Ananta Vijaya held Yudhishthir. Poundra was the terrific conch of Bhima. Dhananjaya preserved Devdatta, and Panchajanya blew Krishna before every war. But time still for Arjuna, standing war ready with Krishna as the charioteer. The conch shell had been blown by Bhishma. Time had come to face the enemy. But one look at lines and lines of kinsmen standing opposite, the Dhananjaya became feeble, looked helpless. Tears welled up in his eyes. Arjuna, who took pride in his archery, ready he was not to face them today. The one who ravaged his enemy, the one who uprooted them all, the one who was born to fight, wars terrifying, led down the great Gandiva, stating Krishna that it is beyond his power to slay his kith and kin. His teacher and uncle, his cousins and nephews, he had played and learned the craft from them. How could he kill them? Adharma, wasn't it? Sri Krishna realized Arjuna's dilemma. Chariot he took in the middle of the armies, asked the Dhananjaya to look at the army with clear eyes. Sri Krishna's words were golden, peace-giving, virtuous, answers to not only Arjuna's doubts but ours as well. You are born to be an archer. If you would not fight, tarnishing your image as a coward, you should not feel the weight of the death of your kin. If not at the hands of Arjuna, then by cause some other. Quietly added the Keshava, convincing Arjuna to pick up his Gandiv. The soul is indomitable, unconquerable and beyond life and death. Garbs of the soul, for a short while these faces are, which you see today. Defeating them today is not sinful at all, but helpful in reinstating dharma. The Aniruddha stated, The body is seen today, feeling grief, happiness, heat, and cold are temporary, vanishing in dust in proximity. Being his favorite nephew, the catalyst of the war of Dharma, the all pervading Sri Krishna showed his omniform to Arjuna, bestowing on him vision extraordinary. The Keshava elicited, "Fix your mind on me and offer all the actions to me." Attachment with detachment should be inculcated in self. Actions should be done as they are expected to be done. The Keshava demanded great focus, elaborating, "The soul does not feel these emotions. It is neutral and the only permanent element in this never ending universe." Krishna asserted further, "Arjuna, you should eliminate from self the huge entity named I. Duties should be done, but result should not be expected." For a quarter of an hour spoke Sri Krishna, inspired Arjuna to stand and fight, the one with no end and no beginning, narrated stories of gods and commoners. The great warrior Arjuna saluted the Janardhan. Picked he the great Gandiva and pulled its string. The noise was such that animals cowered under trees and boulders. Day 1 of the great war, when the complete army stood ready to attack, Drishtadyumna was the supreme commander of the Pandava army. Fireborn was he, like his sister Draupadi. He was the chosen one by his father to avenge the humiliation caused by Guru Drona. The supreme commander of the Kauravas was the legendary warrior Bhishma. 10,000 soldiers a day he killed. The one who was ceaseless, unstoppable. Massacred he for 10 days the Pandava army and created terror amidst all. So, as I told you, the great day came and everybody was war ready. The sun was about to come over the horizon, rise, and already the horses, the camels, the elephants, everybody was ready. The horses and the elephants had so much energy in them that they were not standing still. They were ready to be head along with their enemy. And even the warriors, they were ready for the war. And everybody, the generals, all the generals were inspecting the lines and lines of their soldiers. They were looking smart, and the weapons and all the metal, it was gleaming in the rising sun. It was a spectacle which, not every day you see. Not the centuries would arrive when you will see such spectacle again. Such kind of war it was, and it was a Dharma Yudh. As I told you, 7 Akshauhini of soldiers were there on Pandava side, and 18 Akshauhini of soldiers were there on the Kaurava sides. And as the sun rose, that day the sun saw the gleaming lines of soldiers on both the sides of the Kurukshetra. They were sparkling. So much of weapon was clanging, and the horses and the camels and the elephants, they were like frothing and foaming. They were neighing and trumpeting. They were ready to head along with their enemy. Every warrior had a flag hoisted high on their chariot, and the flag had some color and something was depicted. Some picture was depicted on every flag, like swans, deers, like water pots. There were many things. Like Yudhishthir's flag had a golden moon and silver stars all around it. Duryodhana's flag had a golden elephant. Then Bhishma Pitama had a golden altar. Like Arjuna had a terrific monkey, that is Maruti, on his flag. And all these generals, they even had conch shells. They were like carved and bejeweled conch shells, and they had given names to their conch shells. Like Bhima's conch shell's name was Poundra. Yudhishthir's conch shell's name was Ananta Vijay. Then Krishna had Panchajanya, and Arjuna had Devdutt. So they were all war ready and they were about to go when all of a sudden Arjuna was not sure of himself. Like he became all of a sudden very feeble. He kept down his Gandiv. Gandiv was his, obviously you know that his bow's name, and it was a huge bow, and he kept it down. And Sri Krishna did not understand. He was bewildered. He asked Arjuna, "What happened? Why are you keeping your Gandiv down?" Can't you hear that Bhishma Pitama has already blown the conch and the war is about to start? And what has happened to you? So Arjuna said, no, but I cannot fight this war. I'm finding this war completely useless. I don't want to kill my cousins and uncles and teachers and Bhishma Pitama. I can't do it. I am finding this revenge useless. We should not fight this war. So so Sri Krishna goaded him. He said, don't you remember what they have done with your wife? What they have done with your kingdom? They have taken away your kingdom. They have molested your wife and still you do not want to kill them? This war is just not any war. This war will reinstate dharma. This is a dharma yuddha. And you have to fight. You are not a coward. You are a great archer. You are the greatest archer of your time, of the complete Bharatvarsh, and you cannot do this. But still, he would not relent. Arjuna just would not relent. So Sri Krishna understood what dilemma he has got himself into, what Arjuna has got himself into. So he took the charioteer and came in the middle. And everybody was looking at them, but time was frozen. And then Sri Krishna started talking to Arjuna. And this song of God is called the Bhagavad Gita. And there have been many translations. There have been translations in almost every language. And one of the earliest translation of Bhagavad Gita was in Marathi, done by Jnaneshwar Maharaj when he was just 16 years of age. So what did Krishna told him? Krishna told him that you must think of all these things in a very detached manner. That you are thinking that you are going to kill your people, but don't think this way, that because death is, that it is, nobody is immortal in this life. Everybody has to die. If they will not die at your hands, then they might die in some other place, in some other manner. But everybody is going to die. This sharira, this flesh which you see today, and you feel that this is mortal, this is immortal, and this is everything. These experiences of pain, happiness, vanity, jealousy, all these experiences are just here. They are perceived by you, and you experience them with the help of your 5 sense organs. And that you hear, you touch things, and you see things, and you eat things, and these are your experiences. But these experiences are very temporary in nature, and they create some perceptions, and then you want all those perceptions to be happy ones, and you become afraid when you come out of your comfort zone, because you remember only the happy experiences which give you all good things. You want to memorize only the good experiences, and the bad experiences give you pain, and you don't want to get into those discomforts, and you fear those painful memories, and you do not want them, you shun them. And from this fear is created ego, because the ego creates everything comfortable around you, and it shuns everything bad around you. And this ego makes you want all good things, and that is why for the ego itself, you fight also, you cry also, you want good also. But if you keep away this ego, and if you try to think that this sharira is temporary, then you will not feel pain, and you will fight this war without any pain or ego. You will fight this war to create dharma, because that is what is wanted. Only the soul which resides inside your sharira is actually the immortal thing in this vast universe, which you do not even know starts where and ends where. You are just a grain of sand in this complete universe, and you should understand it. And then all of a sudden, he showed his actual self, what he is, and he started becoming huge. He became enormous, going through the skies, going through the sea, and inside him, Arjuna could see so many worlds getting crushed, getting formed. And then he realized what he was saying, that when Krishna said that you are just a grain of sand, what does he mean? That he understood, and he realized that he is nobody, and he is the one who is making all these things happen. And what he's trying to tell him, that when he is saying that if everything is maya, and you should create detachment from this maya, and if you right now fight this war and kill your kith and kin with that detachment, then you will not feel any pain, and you will realize what you're doing is just you are a medium in this everlasting, ever growing universe. So like this, Sri Krishna kept on talking with Arjuna for almost 45 minutes. And then at the end of 45 minutes, when and then Arjuna, when Krishna had taken his this huge form, he said, now enough, Krishna, please come back to your original form, the way I see you, because I cannot stand, you're too big for me, my eyes cannot take it. So obviously Sri Krishna came back to his own self, the way Arjuna knew him. And then he said, now do you realize? So obviously Arjuna had understood, and he touched the Janardhan's feet, and he said, okay, I am now ready to fight this war. And he asked him to take him in the center of the battleground, and there he blew his conch. Both of them blew their conches, Devdutt and Panchajanya. And then it was a alarm. It was that everybody is ready for the war, and the first day of the war started. And as it was expected, Bhishma Pitama was unstoppable. He was ceaseless. On the first day itself, he killed 10,000 soldiers of the Pandava army. And at the same time, Sanjay, who was given a divine vision by Sanjay, who was given divine vision by Veda Vyas, he was narrating the complete happenings of the war ground to Dhritarashtra, and he was telling what is happening, how Bhishma Pitama is killing mercilessly the soldiers of the Pandava army, and how the elephants are fighting, how the cavalry is fighting, how the camels are fighting. Everything was narrated by Sanjaya. And then he told, now that it is time, again a conch is blown, and it is evening, and there the war is going to stop. And the war ended, and the war-weary soldiers went back to their tents. And there he has described how the ground was looking. The earth was completely red, and on that red earth were striven the warriors' heads and legs and arms, and they were all over. And so many more warriors were wearing different armors, and some had golden armors, some had silver armors, and those armors were looking like as if golden flowers are like grown on the red earth. And the red earth was looking like a bride. She was wearing red, and then there was lots of jewelry all over her, golden and silver flowers and jewelry, as if it is completely striven by golden. And that is how the bride, that is earth, was looking. And this way the first day ended with 10,000 loss of Pandavas. So I will stop my story over here, and if you like my stories from Mahabharata, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends.